We're going to look at some cool techniques and tricks for working with type in Illustrator. And first I just wanted to show you some tips on how to style your type and work with type. Up at the top you have a character panel that'll give you your typeface, your font style, the size. You can select all of your type and just make those changes there. You also can bring up panels to work with. If you would like the tear off panels, you can just bring those up under Window, Type, and then Character and Paragraph. So they can be up here in your control bar, or you can work them as a separate paragraph. And so pretty much like anything, you can just mouse through, and notice I'm getting a preview of my text so I can see what it looks like as I make my changes. And that's just by arrowing through as I go. And so that's kind of a neat technique to change your fonts, change your size here. You can also scrub it down. You just need to remember to have your text selected as you make those changes. You also have a spell check available, so edit and check spelling is where you can check your spelling, and you definitely want to check your spelling before you move on to this next step. So once you have your type, you've styled it, maybe you've selected a font size, done some cool things with it, you're ready to do a little bit more. A great step is to make your text become shape, because you can do so much more with shape in Illustrator. To create shape, have your type selected with your selection tool and go to Type, Create Outlines. And this is why it's important to check your spelling before you do this, because once it is shape, it is shape. It is also grouped together, so a good second step is to ungroup those. This will allow you to kind of move type in different ways, dividing and uniting it together. And so anything you do with shape, you can do with your fonts at this point. So a couple of cool things we can do. You've seen me kind of move some of these around. That's one of the cool things you can do, is move these letters so that they kind of change their interaction together. You can also then make different letters of your design, different colors. You can overlap different letters and then use your Window and Pathinder options to divide those all up, or to say cut part of those out. So anything that you would do with shape, you can do with type once you've created outlines. Another cool technique is to use your knife tool, and you need to first have your letters selected, and your knife tool is embedded under the eraser, so if you don't see it, look for the eraser. And the knife tool cuts across shapes, and what we can do with those slices is color those in all different colors. So you can start getting really funky effects, personalizing your type, doing all sorts of interesting things with it. You can also select your paths and edit those with your direct selection tool. So I can come down here, grab this point, extend that down, maybe select this path, bring it in a little bit. So you can start kind of editing your text to do fun and funky things with it. And that can kind of be a cool design trick, so you can kind of personalize your fonts using that selection tool. You can select your type, and since it has a stroke, you can actually apply a brush to it. So let's bring up our brushes panel. And I'm going to open one of our brush libraries, just using my flyout menu. And let's go to artistic, and we'll do paintbrush. And we're going to change the color of our fill, and we're going to change the color of our stroke, and then we're going to select this. And you can see you can add a cool funky paintbrush stroke to it. And anything that's a paintbrush can be added and applied. And it does have a stroke, so you can change that size, make it less impacting. You can, once type is set as shape, you can apply gradients to it. So bring up your gradient panel. We're going to pull this off. And so gradients are set in the panel, and we're going to first choose, we're going to do a linear gradient, and we just drag colors to our stops. So let's do one from blue to dark blue, and maybe we're going to be crazy and put a green in the middle. If I decide that, oh, let's put this one in here, and then I'm like, ooh, that's ugly, I just drag it off. I can change the opacity of it. So that's the gradient has been created. I can add this to my swatches panel. And there it is. So I would just apply it like any other swatch, select what I'm going to use, click my swatch, and now you can see that gradient is in there. If I want to change how it appears, I need to grab the gradient tool. So that's kind of your steps. You first set your gradient, and then you draw it. So as opposed to every letter, I can have it across the whole word. I can have it horizontal or vertical. I can decide, oh, I only want it to go this far. Then you can see that pure colors on the end. So applying that gradient can also be a cool trick. So those are just some fun, funky things you can do to get crazy with type and create some cool effects. You know, this look is just really very cool and kind of mod 60s, mod 50s look to me. Really like that. Create some cool effects with your type.